Creighton takes on UConn, 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Saturday, January 7th, 2023. UConn's the 6-point favorite, totals 141. If you like Creighton in an upset win on the road here, they're plus 250 for some money line cash. And if you want to see which one of these free picks on my videos that I'm actually betting on personally, the best way to do that is to join my all-access, all-inclusive board member package on my website. It gives you access to every single play, every single membership, every single day for the next 30 days. The math actually works out to be just $1.66 a day during the course of that 30-day membership. I'll tell you this much, at an average of 4 to 6 plays I post a day on that site, it actually works out to be roughly 33 cents a pick I give out, give or take, for the span of that 30 days. Now, I also went 4-1 with a push of my 6 personal sports bets on that website yesterday as well. And the only way you could have accessed all those plays is to be a board member on that site. And even though Creighton's played some pretty good basketball here recently, I can't forget the fact that they still lost 6 out of their last 9. They're facing a UConn team who allows just 61 points a game defensively. And they also rank in the top 20 in defensive boards. Adama Sanogo averages nearly 7 rebounds a night. And he also leads the team in scoring. The 6'9" forward averages over 17 points a game. Meanwhile, Jordan Hawkins averages 14 points a game and drills nearly 40% of his three-pointers. Now, no real shock here, guys. The Huskies are averaging 81 points a game offensively. When it comes to the total in this one, UConn went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Creighton saw overs against the likes of Seton Hall, DePaul, and Arizona State. I'm going to lean toward UConn -6 over 141. Next matchup, Texas, Oklahoma State, 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The Texas Longhorns are -4, totals 141.5. And even though this isn't a huge number here, the Longhorns have been horrible at covering the point spread recently. They're just 2-7 against the spread in their last 9. And they gave up 116 points to Kansas State on January 3rd. Now they're facing an Oklahoma State team who's led by Bryce Thompson, who's making 41% of his three-pointers. Meanwhile, teammate Avery Anderson, he's scoring nearly a dozen points a game himself. But make no mistake, the strength of this Oklahoma State basketball program is their defensive play. These guys are limiting their competition to just 36% shooting from the field. And of course, no real shocker here. These guys are also in the top 20 in the country in defending the three-pointer. Now, injury-wise, Sissy is doubtful for the Cowboys. Bishop questionable for Texas. When it comes to the total, Texas saw unders against the likes of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Creighton, and UT Rio Grande. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State went 70% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma State +4, under 141.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Duke taking on Boston College, and that'll be a 1 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Duke's -9.5, totals 133. Now, I do really hate this number for the Dukes on the road, but I just can't fade them. They're allowing just 62 points per contest, and they're a top 25 defensive rebounding team. Now, Kyle Filipowski, he's averaging nearly 9 rebounds a game, and he also leads the team in scoring. The 7-footer averages over 13.5 points a game. Meanwhile, Jeremy Roach, he's second on the team in scoring with nearly a dozen points per contest. Now, they're facing a Boston College team who lost 5 out of their last 8. They also struggle to get on the scoreboard. These guys average only 64 points a game, and they're also shooting a dismal 26% from three-land. Now, total-wise, BC saw unders against the likes of Stonehill, Rhode Island, and Wyoming. Meanwhile, Duke saw unders against the likes of NC State, Iowa, and Purdue. I'm going to lean toward Duke -9.5, under 133. Next matchup, it is going to be Kentucky squaring off against Alabama, and that'll be a 1 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Alabama's the 6-point favorite, totals 152. And even though this isn't a terrible number for Bama backers, they haven't been great at covering. They're 3-6 against the spread in their last 9. They've had their issues rebounding defensively. These guys are amongst the bottom of the barrel in the SEC in defensive boards. They're also facing arguably one of the best rebounding teams in the nation. Kentucky's in the top 20 in both offensive and defensive rebounding. And of course, most of that is because of Oscar Tshiebwe. The 6'9" forward leads the country with 13.8 rebounds a game. Now, Tshiebwe is also Kentucky's leading scorer with nearly 17 points per contest. When it comes to shooting the long ball, Cason Wallace is making nearly 46% of his shots from beyond the arc. Now, injury-wise, Frederick and Ware are questionable for the Wildcats. When it comes to the total, UK saw their last 4 straight get over the number. Meanwhile, Alabama went 60% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Kentucky +6 over 152. Next matchup, it is going to be Wisconsin taking on Illinois, 1:30 p.m. East. Illinois is -7, totals 130.5. And for a team laying 7 points in this spot here, the Illini had a tough time covering the point spread. These guys failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7, and they really haven't been incredible shooters. These guys are making just 32% of their three-pointers. They also have one of the lower free throw percentages in the Big Ten. Now they're facing a Wisconsin team who's real tough to score against. These guys allow only 61 points a game, and they're also limiting their opponents to just 30% shooting from three-land. When it comes to offensive production here, Chucky Hepburn, he makes over 50% of his three-pointers. He's also the team's second leading scorer. Now, Connor Essegian is making over 44% of his shots from three-land himself. The freshman's also averaging double-digit points a game. Now, as a team, the Red Hot Badgers got the W in their last 6 straight. Now, when it comes to the number, Wisconsin saw unders against the likes of Minnesota, Maryland, and USC. Meanwhile, Illinois went 70% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Wisconsin +7, under 130.5. Next game, it is going to be Iowa State squaring off against TCU. And that'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off. TCU's -6, totals 132. Now, the one-loss Horned Frogs are going to be, tough to beat at home here. They're allowing only 63 points a game. And their opponents are making just 39% of their field goals against them. When it comes to offensive production, TCU averages nearly 80 points a game. Mike Miles is in the top 25 in the country in scoring. He averages just about 20 points a game. Meanwhile, Emmanuel Miller, he's scoring nearly 15 points a game himself. They're facing an Iowa State team who's won a handful of ball games themselves. Having said that, though, the Cyclones are having a tough time making free throws. These guys are shooting just 69% from the stripe. Now, in addition to that, they're also toward the bottom half of the Big 12 right now in offensive rebounding. When it comes to the scoring in this one, Iowa State went 70% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, TCU saw unders against the likes of Texas Tech, Iowa, and Cal. I'm going to lean toward TCU -6, under 132. Next matchup, it is going to be Xavier squaring off against Villanova, and that'll be a 4:30 Eastern tip-off. Villanova's -1.5, totals 147. And even though the Wildcats are the slight favorite, they're probably going to get out-rebounded here today. The Cats are in the bottom half of the Big East in offensive boards per contest. The Cats also lost 2 out of their last 3. They averaged 68 points a game during that short span. Now they're facing a red-hot Xavier squad who won their last 8 straight, and they shoot better than most teams in the country. Musketeers are currently in the top 5 in the nation in offensive field goal percentage. These guys are also drilling nearly 41% of their three-pointers as a team. Soli Boom is making 46% of his three-pointers. He's also leading the team in scoring. Meanwhile, Jack Nunge averages over 15 points a game. He's also shooting 42% from three-land. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Xavier is mostly healthy at the moment. Meanwhile, for Villanova on the other side, Longino, Njoku, and Moore, they're all still out for them. And when it comes to the total, Nova saw overs against the likes of UConn, BC, and Oklahoma. Meanwhile, Xavier saw 7 out of their last 9 get over the line. I'm going to lean towards Xavier +1.5. over 147. Next matchup, it is going to be Kansas, West Virginia, 6 o'clock Eastern start time. The Kansas Jayhawks are the 1-point favorite on the road. Total's 142.5. Now, the one-loss Jayhawks won their last 7 straight, and they're one of the better shooting teams in the Big 12. Kansas is making nearly 49% of their field goals. Now, Jalen Wilson's also 12th in the country in scoring with over 20.5 points a game. When it comes to shooting the 3-ball, Grady Dick is making 46% of his shots from beyond the arc. Now, they're facing a West Virginia team who lost their last 2 straight, and they allowed 82 points to Kansas State in one of those losses. As a matter of fact, guys, the Mountaineers suffered losses this year to the likes of Oklahoma State, Xavier, and Purdue. Now, when it comes to the total, West Virginia went 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Kansas went 7-3 to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Kansas -1 over 142.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Kansas State taking on Baylor, 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Baylor is -6.5, totals 147 and a hook. And even though they are at home here, I do have concerns about this number for Baylor. They failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they've certainly had problems guarding the three-pointer at times. Matter of fact, the Bears lost their last 2 outright, and they gave up 77 points or more in both of those losses. They're facing a K-State team who scores nearly 80 points a game offensively themselves, and they're making just about 48% of their field goals as a team. Keontae Johnson, he makes nearly 41% of his three-pointers. He also leads the team with 18 points a game. Meanwhile, Marquise Noel averages 15 points a night himself. When it comes to defensive play, the Wildcats are allowing only 64 points per contest. Now, when it comes to the number, K-State did go 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Baylor saw overs against the likes of TCU, Iowa State, and Marquette. I'm going to lean toward Kansas State +6.5. over 147 and a hook. Next matchup, it is going to be Arkansas taking on Auburn, and that's going to be an 8:30 Eastern tip-off. Auburn's the 2-point favorite, totals 139. And despite being favored by a bucket at home here, the Auburn Tigers are one of the worst shooting teams in the SEC. These guys are making just 28% of their three-pointers. They're also shooting only 66% from the foul line. And even though this is a super short number, you got to consider the fact that Auburn failed to cover in 7 out of their last 9. Now, they're facing an Arkansas team who won 8 out of their last 9 themselves, and they played some incredibly tough defense. These guys are allowing only 62 points per contest, and they've been impossible to shoot three-pointers against. They're limiting their competition to just 28% shooting from three-land. They're also a top 25 defensive rebounding team. Now, scoring-wise, Ricky Council IV, he averages nearly 19 points a game along with 3 boards. Meanwhile, Anthony Black scores over 11.5 points a night. When it comes to the total, Arkansas saw their last 4 straight stay under the number, 6-2 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, Auburn saw unders against the likes of Florida and Northwestern. I'm going to lean toward Arkansas +2. Under 139. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Notre Dame +13 over 144.5. Give me Providence -6 over 152. UConn -6 over 141. Real quick, guys, I went 4-1 with a push in my 6 personal sports bets on my website yesterday. And the only way you can access each and every one of my personal plays is become a board member on that site. And of course, the link for my website is in my bio. Give me Buffalo -10 over 152. VCU -6 over 137. Nebraska -2.5 under 129. Oklahoma State +4 under 141.5. Missouri -8 over 150 and a hook. Kentucky +6 over 152. Georgia +8 under 138. UW-Milwaukee +9 over 143. Fairleigh Dickinson -11 under 154. Georgia Tech +3 under 145. Duke -9.5 under 133. Wisconsin +7 under 130.5. Stonehill -3, under 138 and a hook. UMass -1.5, over 152. Central Michigan +2, under 148. Georgetown +19, under 154.5. TCU -6, under 132. Temple -1, over 148. East Carolina +15, over 147. Charlotte +9.5, over 130. Southern Illinois -1, under 127. Illinois Chicago +14, under 146.5. Evansville +2, over 131. Hartford +13, under 136.5. UNC Wilmington -6, over 142. Drexel -14, under 130. William and Mary +7, under 139. South Dakota +4, over 141.5. North Dakota +5, under 137. IUPUI +22.5, over 138 and a hook. Fordham -4, under 144. Mississippi State -5, over 124. LaSalle -1.5, under 138 and a hook. George Mason -6, under 132. Gardner-Webb -4, under 128. Presbyterian -2.5, under 137 and a hook. UNC Asheville -4, over 138. Chattanooga -15, over 146. Michigan State -4, under 140. St. Francis Brooklyn +5, under 120. Wake Forest -9.5, over 141 and a hook. Give me Louisiana Tech -5, over 132. Bradley -15, over 127.5. High Point -1.5, over 151. Stephen F. Austin -3, over 133. Seattle -3.5, under 134 and a hook. Moorhead -7, over 134. Denver +4, over 147. Southern Miss -6, over 138. South Alabama -3, under 127. Georgia Southern -2, under 128. Cleveland State -15, under 127.5. Coastal Carolina +13, over 150 and a hook. South Carolina +18, under 126.5. Miami, Ohio +13, over 145. Wagner -5, under 135. UTSA, Texas San Antonio +7, over 143. Pittsburgh -2.5, under 142. NC Central -2, over 141.5. Arkansas Pine Bluff +6, under 139 and a hook. Howard -12, under 135. Coppin State -6, over 163. St. Louis -7.5, over 141 and a hook. San Diego State -8, under 136. Nevada -1.5, under 135. Longwood -9, over 144.5. Furman -6, over 144. UNC Greensboro -4.5, under 134 and a hook. Western Carolina +1.5, over 138. Northeastern -4, over 139. UC Santa Barbara -6, under 124.5. Montana State -6, over 138. Tennessee Martin -6, over 143. Arkansas Little Rock +2, over 154.5. Lindenwood +2, under 146. Colorado State -5, under 131. Northwestern State -1.5, over 148. McNeese State -2, under 139. Xavier +1.5, over 147. Incarnate Word +9, over 142. Syracuse +12, under 127.5. College of Charleston -11, over 147. Jacksonville -4, under 134. New Orleans -5, over 159. Arizona -13, over 150. Belmont -1, under 135.5. Alabama A&M +6, over 140. Ohio -3.5, over 150 and a hook. Arkansas State +11, under 131. Portland State -1, over 152. Eastern Washington -5, under 139. Austin Peay -7, over 145. Sam Houston State -9, over 130. Duquesne +3, under 134.5. LSU +5, over 139. Alabama State +8, under 143. Kansas -1 over 142.5. K-State +6.5 over 147 and a hook. Cornell -2 over 152. Jersey Drake -8 under 136. Brown -8 under 128. North Texas -3 under 121. Florida A&M +16 under 134. Grambling -11 under 135.5. Utah State +1.5 under 139. Towson -6 over 127. Florida Gulf Coast -9 over 147. Southern Utah +2 over 149. Wofford -9 over 141. Texas Tech -5.5 under 133 and a hook. Utah -5 under 136. Florida International +13 over 158. Harvard +9 under 129.5. NC State +6 under 144. UT Rio Grande +11 over 153. Montana -1 over 146. UC Riverside -10 under 133. Louisiana -8 under 134.5. St. Thomas -7 over 149. Oral Roberts -15 over 143. BYU -4 over 148.5. James Madison -10 over 138. UC Davis -7 under 132. Pacific +8 over 153. North Alabama +2.5 over 140 and a hook. SIU Edwardsville +2 over 149. Arkansas +2 under 139. Butler +5 under 132. New Mexico State -5 under 137. Give me Portland +17 under 133. Weber State -9 under 131.5. UC Irvine -6 over 149. Hawaii -2 under 121. New Mexico -5 over 149. Oregon State +15 under 137. Gonzaga -7 over 157. With my next and final free pick for the video, thank God, give me Loyola Marymount -3.5 under 144 and a hook.